This conference will
when
now be
voltage
recorded.
stability is to be monitored and controlled in smart grid architecture. Okay, so this will be outline of my presentation. First, I will give a concept of voltage stability and then different classifications. What are different types of voltage stability? And then I will discuss about various causes which cause voltage instability in the power system. Thereafter, I will talk about offline assessment of voltage stability margin, and then I will talk about various preventive and corrective measures which are adopted to maintain voltage stability in the power system. Here, the fires controllers also play an important role in maintaining voltage stability of the power system. And then I will talk about voltage stability assessment in smart grid architecture. What are different issues to be addressed when the voltage stability is to be assessed in the growing smart grid architecture. Then in smart grid architecture, the wide area monitoring system can play an important role in monitoring voltage stability of the margin. So I will talk about role of the wide area monitoring system. I will talk about role of wide area monitoring system in voltage stability monitoring and control of the real-time systems in smart grid architecture. And then since PMUs, uh, although we can place PMUs at all the buses, but it is not, from the cost point of view, it is not advisable. And also with the placement of PMUs at certain minimum locations, we can make the whole power network fully observable. So no need of wasting money in putting PMU at all the buses for estimation of voltage and current phasors. So with a certain optimally placed PMUs, we can assess voltage stability of real-time system. So I will talk about how to place up to PMUs optimally for voltage stability assessment and some case studies done by my research scholar. Then I will discuss the online voltage stability monitoring through PMU measurements, that is synchrophasor measurements, and again case studies presented by my research scholar. And then I will talk about the real-time control of voltage stability margin through these PMU measurements. Control means the reactive power injections may be controlled, provided by say different fast controllers may be controlled. So PMU measurements may be tuned to the various controllers, various control parameters, including parameters of fast controllers. So some case studies will be presented. So first, let us see what is voltage stability. Voltage stability is the ability of the power system to maintain bus voltages within acceptable limits. If voltages are outside limits, we call the system to be voltage unstable. Otherwise, it is voltage stable. And voltage security is the ability of system not only to operate stably under in system intact case, but also under severe contingency or adverse system changes. These are different classifications of voltage stability. One is based on amount of disturbance. So when disturbance is large, then it is called large disturbance voltage stability. So it is ability to maintain steady state voltages following large disturbances. And as disturbance is large, you cannot linearize power system equation. So you have to consider nonlinear model of the power system. So you have to obtain the nonlinear response of the power system. And this is short-term phenomena generally. So analysis is similar to the transient angular stability. The second classification is small disturbance voltage stability. It is a ability of the system to maintain steady state voltages under small disturbances. So if disturbance is small, you can linearize equations. So you can linearize equations and you can use all the linear control techniques to control stability of the system. Say eigenanalysis, root local techniques, all these linear control techniques will be applicable for small disturbance voltage stability or controlling stability of the system. Whereas for large disturbance stability, you have to do the nonlinear simulation. So linear control techniques will not be applicable, cannot consider. The small disturbance voltage stability is a long-term phenomenon. So it will take several minutes or hour before voltage instability comes. Generally, the voltage stability has been observed to be due to small disturbance. There is due to slow and gradual increase in demand. A point comes beyond which you cannot load the system, and that is the maximum loadability limit, and that is called the voltage stability limit also, beyond which if you try to load the system, then voltage becomes uncontrollable and leading to finally it may lead to voltage collapse if not proper control strategies are not adopted. Another classification is based on time frame. Based on time frame, it can be classified as short-term voltage stability or long-term voltage stability. Short-term voltage stability involves dynamics of fast-acting load components, such as the induction motors, HVDC converters, electronically controlled loads. If dynamics of these components are dominant, then within small time, say few seconds, just like transient stability, voltage stability may occur. So here, the period of interest is order of several seconds, and analysis requires solution of appropriate differential equation. Just like you solve swing equation and other equations, say other state equations corresponding to exciter, governor, turbine, etc. In transient stability assessment. Similarly here, if it is short-term phenomena, then you have to do the analysis of you have to solve the differential equations, different differential equations, and voltages you have to do the time domain plot of voltage versus time. So time domain simulation of voltages are to be done. Other type is short-term voltage stability. It involves dynamics of slow-acting components. Slow-acting components such as tap-changing transformer, thermostatically controlled loads, and the current limiter, generator current limiters. So here, since it is long-term phenomena, the study period of interest may extend from to several or many minutes and even hours. Since this is slow phenomena, so you can do static analysis for stability estimation. So here you can use Newton-Raphson load flow, NRLF. You can do static simulation. Dynamic simulation is not required for long-term voltage stability assessment because changes are slow. Changes are slow, so you have to do the static simulation. So here the equations, differential equations are ignored. We consider only algebraic equation. Differential equations are approximated by algebraic equation. So you do a static analysis, say NRLF, but NRLF has got certain limitations, so that we will discuss later. But for short-term voltage stability, you have to do the dynamic simulation. So there you can use different numerical techniques, say Runge-Kutta method, Euler's method, all these methods, numerical integration method, or solution of differential equations. There is one important concept given in mathematics which can be linked to voltage stability. That is bifurcation. What is bifurcation? Bifurcation is change in qualitative behavior of the power system. This is known as bifurcation. So quantity-wise, there may not be change, but quality-wise, there change in behavior of a system, any system. It is known as bifurcation. Suddenly, behavior of certain system changes from its normal behavior. So that is called bifurcation. So in power system also, bifurcation is changing qualitative behavior of the power system. So out of different types of bifurcation, mainly two has been considered to be associated to be with voltage instability phenomena. One is saddle node bifurcation, other is half bifurcation. Saddle node bifurcation is a static bifurcation, and half bifurcation is a dynamic bifurcation. What is saddle node bifurcation? Saddle node bifurcation is a phenomena where the system equilibrium disappears. So before bifurcation point, there may be multiple solutions. At the bifurcation point, all solutions merge, they become same. And beyond bifurcation, there is no solution for the system. So there is divergence. So this phenomenon is called saddle node bifurcation. In case of voltage stability, also we will talk about the notch curve. So before saddle node bifurcation, there are two voltage solutions, one stable, other unstable. And as you increase the system parameters or demand, the two equations, two solutions come closer and closer. And at bifurcation point, they become same. Beyond that, there is no bifurcation, no solution. So that point is the saddle node bifurcation point. And if you talk in terms of eigenvalues of the system state matrix, then at the saddle node bifurcation point, one of the eigenvalues of system state matrix reaches origin. So saddle node bifurcation is bifurcation under all limits open. But if you consider various limits, if you obtain the saddle node bifurcation under different limits, say reactive power limits of generators, voltage limits, tap changes limits, all limits. So if you observe, if you find this bifurcation under different limits, this bifurcation is called limit induced bifurcation. So this is static bifurcation. Other bifurcation, which is dynamic bifurcation, is half bifurcation. What is half bifurcation? At half bifurcation point, one pair of complex eigenvalues reaches imaginary axis. So if you, as you change system parameters, the system state matrix changes. So location of eigenvalues also changes. So what happens at the saddle node bifurcation point, one pair of eigenvalue reaches imaginary axis. So if one pair of eigenvalue reaches imaginary axis, then what will happen to corresponding states? They will have the sustained oscillations. Sustained oscillation. Oscillation is neither unbounded nor bounded. It is simply it will continue with fixed frequency and amplitude. So it will continue indefinitely. So there is such self-sustained oscillations of fixed frequency and amplitude that is called periodic orbit or limit cycle. So at all bifurcation point, there is emergence of periodic orbit. For example, say Earth is revolving around Sun in its orbit. So it is revolving from indefinitely. You don't know from when it started revolving around Sun and how long it will revolve. It will continue. So like that, but it never goes out of its orbit. So similarly, states will never go out of orbit. If you plot the state space, if you plot the state trajectory, state space plane, it will be circle around equilibrium point. Okay, and all the states variables will revolve in that cycle definitely. So beyond half bifurcation point, it is quite possible that if these eigenvalues shift to the right hand side of the complex span, that will cause instability. So since this type of voltage stability due to emergence of half bifurcation is oscillatory in nature, just like transient angular instability, where the angular swing becomes unbounded. Here similarly, voltage magnitude becomes unbounded, uncontrolled. Oscillation is uncontrolled in that case, and that is called the oscillatory voltage instability. So static voltage instability may occur due to saddle node bifurcation, and the oscillatory voltage instability may occur due to half bifurcation. So based on the bifurcation, we define another classification of voltage stability. One is static voltage stability, other is oscillatory voltage stability. Static voltage stability is due to occurrence of the saddle node bifurcation. So at this bifurcation, one of the eigenvalue reaches origin and the system solution disappears. And if you talk in terms of Jacobian matrix, at this point, the NRLF Jacobian becomes singular. We'll talk about that why it becomes singular. And another type of voltage stability is oscillatory voltage instability, which is attributed to the occurrence of half bifurcation when one pair of eigenvalues, complex eigenvalue of the system state matrix reaches imaginary axis, and that may result into emergence of periodic orbit. Now this is the notch curve, the voltage versus loading. Once you increase loading, the voltage decreases. Voltage decreases. So upper one is the normal behavior of the system. With increase in demand, the voltage should go down. Whereas for up the lower portion of the curve is abnormal behavior. You see with increase in loading, voltage increasing, and with decrease in loading, voltage is decreasing. So this is the abnormal behavior. So all controllers designed for the maintenance of voltage will fail if voltages shift to the lower portion. If load voltage shifts to the lower portion, and that may lead to very low voltage, leading to voltage collapse. So as you increase loading, you see the two voltage solution, one upper one, which is stable voltage solution, and lower one, the unstable voltage. Upper is stable, lower unstable. They come closer, closer, and closer. And finally at saddle node bifurcation point, they become same. Both stable solution and unstable solution merge. Beyond saddle node bifurcation point, there is no voltage solution. So there is disappearance of the system solution. So distance A, the point A corresponds to base case operating point, and B corresponds to maximum loadability of the system, beyond which you cannot load the system. So distance AB can be called the static voltage stability margin or static loading margin of the system, beyond which you cannot load the system. Before saddle node bifurcation, if there is dominance of fast-acting components such as induction motors, HVDC converters, etc., then one pair of complex eigenvalue of system state matrix may reach imaginary axis, the leading to appearance of half bifurcation. So if half bifurcation occurs, then corresponding voltage states will start oscillating indefinitely. There will be sustained oscillation of voltages or emergence of periodic orbit. So beyond after half bifurcation, it may be controlled. The eigenvalue may be brought back to the left half of the complex plane, or if it is not controlled, then the two complex eigenvalues may go to the right hand side. So in that case, that will lead to voltage instability. So this is the oscillatory voltage instability. So distance AC is known as the oscillatory voltage stability margin or dynamic loading margin. Now we'll talk about different causes of voltage instability in the system. One is difficulty in transmission of reactive power under heavy loads. So it is easier to transmit real power, but it is difficult to transmit reactive power, particularly under heavy loading condition. This is illustrated by one example for two-bus system, radial system. Here, the generator is supplying the load second bus through a transmission line, heavy reactance X. Now, let us consider the line to be lossless, and the load is drawing PR plus JQR at the receiving end. So we can derive the expression of real power transmitted and reactive power transmitted. The PR comes as EV by X sine delta, and QR comes as V E cosine delta minus V by X. So as load increases, delta increases. Delta increases means PR is still positive. But under high value of delta, cos delta will become lower and lower. And if cos delta becomes lower and lower, then E cos delta may become less than V. In that case, QR becomes negative. What is meaning of negative QR? Negative QR means the generator is transmitting reactive power, but load is unable to receive it. It is sending it back to the system. It is injecting it back to the system. So as demand increases, as real and reactive power requirement of the load is going on increasing, more reactive power as well real power should be supplied by generator. The generator has generated, which has got sufficient generation. It is sending reactive power, but load is not unable to get it. It is sending it back. So load requires more reactive power, but is unable to receive it. It is sending it back to the system because QR is negative. So what will happen? Due to not getting reactive power, sufficient reactive power, the voltage may go on sinking and sinking and sinking, and that may lead to voltage stability in the system. And this occurs in the heavy loading condition. So this difficulty may cause voltage stability in the system. And if you talk about the example of UP Power Corporation network, you see the most of the generators are in eastern side, Sonbhadra, Panki, Obra, etc. And most of the loads are in the western region. Western region means Saharanpur, Meerut, all these sugar mills industries are there in western UP. So what will happen? You have to transmit. You have to transmit both real and reactive power from the source to the load, from eastern UP to western UP. And in this transmission, what happens? As demand increases, it is difficult to transmit from the source to the load. Transmission is difficult. So that may lead to the voltage instability. Second cause is high reactive power consumption under heavy loads. Under heavy loads, the reactive power consumed in the line is I square X. So total reactive power consumption in the line is sigma I square X. So you see that reactive power consumption increases quadratically with current in the line. So as demand increases, the current flow line may increase. And if current flow line increases, then the power which is lost in the network increases quadratically. So although generators are generating sufficient amount of reactive power, but a large percentage of it is lost in the network itself, and load are unable to get the sufficient reactive power because it is lost in the network. So under heavy loading condition, since there is high reactive power consumption in the network itself, this may lead to voltage instability in the system. Third cause is hitting of Q limit of generators. Hitting of Q limits. The the generator has got only one P limit, real power generation limit. That is dictated by rating of the turbine. Because out of generator and turbine rating is less. So maximum real power generation capability of generator is dictated by efficiency and rating of the turbine. But the generator has got number of Q limits. Number of Q limits. One is due to dictated by overheating of the armature conductors. That is called armature current limit. Other Q limit is due to overheating of field conductor. That is called the field current limit. There is minimum field current limit also due to overheating of end region of the core. That is called the end region heating limit, and that decide minimum field current. Accordingly, the Q minimum limit is there. And fourth one is stability limit. So due to all these, the reactive power generation capability of generator is more limited as compared to real power generation capability. and typically it is 50 to 60% of the real power generation capability. Means if generator rating is 100 megawatt in terms of real power, then it will be able to typically it will be able to generate maximum of 50 to 60 megawatt. So since the cost here in reactive power generation constraints are more, so as reactive power requirement increases, some of the generators may hit their maximum generation limit. So it means less number of Q sources will be available to supply reactive power, and that will cause shrinkage of the nose curve. So maximum loadability of the system will get reduced. Occurrence of contingencies may cause voltage instability. Two curves has been plotted. One is for impact case and second for contingency case. So for contingency case, you see the nose curve has shrinked, so voltage stability margin has reduced. You can understand by example of radial system. Say this generator is supplying load to two parallel transmission lines. If one of the line is out, then what will be the real power transmitted? The X becomes twice X. If one line is out, X will be replaced by twice X. Instead of two lines, you have one line. So real maximum power transmission level limit capability becomes half. So maximum loadability get reduced. So voltage stability margin also gets reduced. So occurrence of contingency, some line outage, some element generator outage, etc. may cause shrinkage of nose curve. So voltage stability margin reduces. There are different types of static loads. We can consider constant current load, constant impedance load, and constant power load. So suppose this is the system. In that case, this is the characteristic of constant impedance load, and this is the characteristic of constant power load. The power down is constant irrespective of voltage, and constant current load straight line, and say this is the operating point. Now, suppose there is some contingency. If there is some contingency, you see that constant impedance load has got still solution, but constant power load has got no solution. So as far as voltage stability is concerned, the constant power load may be considered as a worst type of load. So if there is significant percentage of constant power loads present in the system, it may cause voltage instability. Reverse section of OLTC may cause voltage stability in the system. OLTC, what is function of OLTC? They are used to control voltages. How they control voltages? The OLTC tappings are done on the high voltage side. So turns ratio is the secondary turns by primary turns N2 by N1. That is low voltage side turns by high voltage side turns. So if low voltage drops, what you have to do? You have to reduce tapping. You have to move tapping downwards so that turns ratio increases. N1 reduces, so N2 by N1 increases. So you have to move tapping downwards. It means you have to increase turns ratio. If you increase turns ratio, voltage can be increased and brought back to the normal value. So what is normal operation of tap changer? With increase in turns ratio, the voltage should increase, and with decrease in turns ratio, voltage should decrease. Suppose the reverse action occurs, that is with increase in turns ratio, voltage reduces. Then what will happen? If there is drop in voltage, the tap changer will try to increase turns ratio to control it, but instead of controlling, voltage will get deteriorated. So that will lead to the low voltage in the system. So reverse action of tap changer may cause voltage instability, and this reverse action may occur in the heavy loading condition. Say example of this radial system. Say at the load bus there is tap changer to control the voltage, and turns ratio is 1:n. N was secondary low voltage side. So we can obtain equivalent circuit referred to the load side. So E will become NE referred to the load side, and JX will become JN square X referred to the load side. So by voltage deviation rule, the voltage on the lower voltage V will be given by, say, let us assume that this load is a variable resistant load. So this is R. R is the variable resistance by which you are changing the power drawn by the load. So by voltage division rule, the V will be equal to R by R plus J N square X into E. So magnitude of voltage, load voltage will be equal to NER by root over R square plus N square X whole square. If we differentiate this with respect to turns ratio, dV by dN becomes this. So you see, when as far as R is greater than N square X, the sensitivity dV by dN is positive. It means with increasing turns ratio, voltage increases, which is normal behavior. But if R becomes less than N square X, in that case, this sensitivity becomes negative. Negative means it will operate in the reverse of this. Now, when R becomes less than N square X, under heavy loading condition, in order to increase the load, you are reducing R. You are reducing R. So if R becomes, once you reduce R, it is possible that, quite possible that R becomes less than N square X. So dV by dN sensitivity becomes negative. So under heavy loading condition, the VLTC may act in the reverse sense. Also, suppose generator was supplying power through two parallel lines. One of the lines out. In that case, the X will increase. If X increases, then R may become less than N square X. So under contingency also, R may become less than N square X. So under contingency and under heavy loading condition, R may become less than N square X. Okay, and this may cause voltage instability in the system. So due to reverse action of VLTC. Okay, so जब लोड ज्यादा है, हमको वोल्टेज को कंट्रोल करना है टू प्रिवेंट वोल्टेज स्टेबिलिटी, लेकिन OLTC क्या कर रहा है, इसको कंट्रोल करने की बजाय और क्या कर रहा है, वोल्टेज को डिटोरिएट कर रहा है. सो ये मेडिसिन की जगह क्या हो गया, जहर. मेडिसिन की जगह हो गया जहर. So OLTC is helpful in controlling voltage, but it is not helpful in controlling voltage stability margin. As far as voltage stability margin concerned, ये क्या हो गया, दगाबाज दोस्त. It is not able to help. Okay, so this side become दगाबाज दोस्त. जब जरूरत है तो ये नहीं साथ दे रहा है. So OLTC is not helpful in controlling voltage stability margin. Now I will talk about different offline assessment methods for voltage stability assessment. One is by repeated load flow, that is NRLF. You know NRLF, international load flow, is solved for a particular loading, system loading, particular demand. Whereas PV curve or QV curve or nose curve, you have to plot for different loading. So what is done? NRLF is solved for a particular loading. Loading increased, again NRLF is solved, will get second point. Again loading increased, NRLF is solved, will get third point. And likewise, you can get different voltage points for different loadings. At the nose point, what happens? The NRLF diverges. Why? At this point, what is slope dV by dP or dV by dQ? Infinity, or dP by dV or dQ by dV 0. 0 means Jacobian becomes singular. Jacobian, NRLF Jacobian becomes singular. If it becomes singular, this inverse will not exist. So there is divergence. NRLF diverges. So divergence point of NRLF can be taken as the maximum loadability point or voltage stability limit. Okay. So बहुत धीरे नल चला है, पानी डिस्टर्ब हो रहा है. अब पानी देना पीने, पानी पीने देना. So Um, so NRL of divergence is the nose point. So a divergence of NRL, the point of divergence of NRL may be taken as voltage stability limit. So by NRL, you can plot upper voltage portion, upper voltage solution portion, but you cannot plot the lower one. Now, this method has got repeated load flow has got some drawback. What is drawback? The drawback is another LF may diverge prior to nose point due to system ill conditionings. What are system ill conditionings? One is the high R by X ratio. Second is presence of three winding transformer. Uh, these ill conditionings, there are number of ill conditionings in the systems. So due to these ill conditionings, the NRLF may diverge even before nose point at some point. So it will not give exact estimation of nose point. This is drawback of repeated load flow. Also, this is about the ill conditioning the system. Other reason is numerical reason. What is numerical reason? As demand increases, the elements of Jacobian may go on reducing. Jacobian elements may go on reducing. So even prior to reaching nose point, some of the elements of Jacobian becomes too small and that gets truncated. Becomes zero. And this is the numerical error. This is numerical problem. So due to which also NRLF may diverge prior to this point. Say some dP by dB becomes zero due to this too small value, gets truncated. So due to this numerical region also, the voltage stability may occur prior to the reaching nose point. So second method is multiple load flow. Multiple load flow was given by Tamura and others. In multiple load flow, what is done? A set of multiple load flow solutions are generated for any system parameter. A set of multiple load flow solutions are generated, out of which two solutions, voltage solutions, are closely related. So one is upper voltage solution, the lower voltage solution. And using this, the nose curve is plotted. The third method is continuation power flow, which is considered the most accurate method. Continuation power flow method is considered most accurate method. Here, the power flow equations are modified. A new parameter, which is system loading, is introduced to continue solution. So that's a method is called continuation power flow method. I will talk about this method in detail. Singular value and eigenvalue analysis, another method. Singular value analysis. Uh, the Jacobian is decomposed as a product of three matrices, and there are some values known as singular value. I will talk about that. So at nose point, so one of the singular value becomes zero. Eigenvalue analysis, you can formulate system state matrix. And at the nose point, here as we have already talked, a sudden bifurcation point, one of the eigenvalue reaches origin. So that may be considered as a nose point. Sensitivity-based methods, we can obtain sensitivity of bus voltage with respect to different parameters. And based on this sensitivity, you can estimate how far the system is away from the nose point. There are different performance indices which have been developed to estimate voltage stability margin of the system. Energy function based methods have also been suggested, similar to the transient energy function developed for assessment of angular stability. Now I will talk about continuous power flow method. Continuous power flow method consists of two steps. One is predictor step, other is corrector step. So The power flow equations are reformulated. In case of NRLF, the real and reactive power demands are fixed, and real power generation are also pre-specified for all buses except slide. But here, in case of continuation power flow method, the real and reactive power demands are considered variable, and real power generation at the all buses are also considered variable. And the change in demand, the power demand at any bus I is given by PDI is equal to PDIB plus lambda KDI S delta base cos phi I, and QDI is equal to QDIB plus lambda KDI S delta base sin phi I. Now, what is lambda? Lambda is the system loading parameter, the fraction or percentage of increase of demand. If you multiply this by MVA base, S delta base into base MVA, and multiply by power factor of increased demand, that is cos phi I, that becomes increase in megawatt. If loading increase is uniform at all the buses, in that case, KDI is 1. But if you want to have the different pattern of load increase at different buses, at some buses you have to want to increase higher increase, you want more increase in demand. At other buses you want less increase in demand. So accordingly, KDI you can select high KDI for a buses where you want to have higher change in demand. Low KDI for buses where you want to have low change in KDI. So PDI changed. PDIB is the base case demand, and this lambda KDI S delta base cos phi I is the change in demand. So new demand is given by this PDI base plus this lambda KDI S delta base cos phi I. Similarly, new reactive power demand is the base case demand plus increased demand. S delta base is multiplied by sin phi I. And generation is also increased as PGIB 1 plus lambda KGI. KGI is constant for a particular generator. We want to have uniform increase in generation for all generators, then KGI will be 1. Okay, so here we have one more variable. So what was earlier, then what was the Newton Raphson load flow equation? The injected power in any bus, PI, is equal to all buses at all buses except slab. PI is equal to PGI minus PDI is equal to sigma VI Bj Yij cos delta I minus delta J minus theta Ij. Now, in this equation, PDI is replaced by PDIB plus lambda KDI S delta base cos phi. PGI is replaced by PGIB 1 plus lambda KGI. And similarly, for PQ buses, QDI is replaced by QDIB plus lambda KDI S delta base sin phi. So that becomes the modified power flow equations. In this modified power flow equations, you have more new variable to continue solution, that is lambda. One more variable, but number of equations are same. Number of equations are unchanged. So how to get solution? How to get solution? If number of variables are equal to number of unknowns, then only you can solve. Otherwise, you cannot solve. But here, number of variables are increased by 1. So what is done? In the predictor step, out of these variables, one of the tangent is pre-specified as plus 1 or minus 1. What is tangent? Tangent is this. See, these are original power flow equations. F delta V is equal to 0. Derivative of F with respect to delta, derivative of with respect to V. D delta dV equal to 0. Now, modified power flow equation is F delta V lambda equal to 0. One more variables. So how it will be solved by NRLF? By NRLF, derivative of F with respect to delta, derivative of F with respect to V, derivative of F with respect to lambda, D delta dV D lambda equal to 0. So there are multiple D delta values. multiple dB values and one d lambda value. So these are called tangents. These are called tangents. Out of all these tangents, one of the tangent is pre-specified as plus 1 or minus 1. Means either 1 dV, dVi or ith bus is specified plus 1 or minus 1, or d lambda I is specified plus 1 or minus 1, or d lambda is specified plus 1 or minus 1. So one of the tangent is pre-specified as plus 1 or minus 1. So if one of tangent is pre-specified, then number of variables becomes equal to number of unknowns we can solve. So one of the tangent is pre-specified. In character step, what is done? Keeping so once that tangent is pre-specified, then what will happen? For new solution, delta becomes delta 0 plus delta delta, which is obtained by load flow. V becomes V0 plus dV, and dV is obtained by solving this. You get new voltage, and lambda 0 plus d lambda. So one of the tangent was pre-specified. Say d lambda is pre-specified. So earlier lambda was lambda 0. Now it is lambda 0 plus d lambda. D lambda was pre-specified in the predictor state. So new value of lambda becomes lambda 0 plus d lambda. Now what is done? Keeping that specified value constant. So value which where the tangent which was the variable was pre-specified, keeping that constant. Now lambda is kept constant. Say for example, say d lambda was specified, so we calculated lambda 1. Now keeping lambda is equal to lambda 1, you solve like NRLF. Solve like NRLF. So you get the correct solution. So one of the parameter is pre-specified to continuous solution. That parameter is called continuation parameter, and the method is called continuation parameter. That's why the method is called continuation property method. Question is, which variable should be taken as continuation parameter? So under light loading condition, lambda is taken as continuation parameter. Means d lambda is pre-specified as plus 1 or minus 1. Okay. And then lambda is kept constant. If lambda is kept constant, another way then means you will have vertical dip. Lambda is kept constant. You solve it in character step, you get vertical dip, you get this solution. Again, d lambda is plus 1 or minus 1. In upper voltage solution, it is plus 1. In lower voltage solution, d lambda will taken minus 1 because lambda is decreased. So d lambda is plus 1. Again, you get solution and you get dip. But what will happen near nose point? If you near nose point, if you make d lambda say plus 1 and take vertical dip, keeping lambda constant, so make solution, you are lost. You are not getting solution, you are lost. So it means near nose point, voltage magnitude is considered continuation parameter. Instead of d lambda is plus 1, now dV will be dVi, voltage of IF bus. dVi will be considered plus 1. So you get this point, and then keeping Vi constant, you run NRLF. So if you keeping Vi constant, you run NRLF. What will happen? You will have horizontal dip. Instead of vertical dip, you will have horizontal dip. You will get this solution. Again, for lower voltage solution, dV plus dV is now minus 1, and horizontal dip, V constant. And then you come to light loading condition, again d lambda is minus 1, vertical dip, lambda constant. D lambda minus 1, vertical dip. So like that, the full nose curve is plotted. So this gives the exact nose curve. The conditional power flow method, you can trace the full nose curve by these predictor and character steps. Now, this I have already explained you. Now, critical point and weakest bus can also be assessed by continuation power flow method. Prior to nose point, d lambda is positive. We are taking +1. And after nose point, it is negative. And the nose point, it is changing the sign from positive to negative. So point where it is changing sign from positive to negative, that point we consider the nose point or the critical point or voltage instability limit. Voltage stability limit. Now, what is weakest burst? Weakest burst is the direct burst which has got highest rate of change of voltage with respect to lambda near nose point. Near nose point. So you see this nose curve. This is the nose curve. Say there are two buses. We plot nose curve for different buses. All the buses you plot nose curve. So one bus has got nose curve like this. Other bus has got nose curve like this, where voltage is more changing, more decrease in voltage near nose point with respect to same change with same change in demand. So bus which has got more drop in voltage with respect to loading near nose point, that bus will be considered more critical. Okay, so bus having highest dV by dJ value will be considered the most critical bus or weakest bus. Another method of voltage stability assessment is the singular value decomposition. This is another Jacobian. This can be decomposed and it can be considered product of three matrices U, D, V transpose. U D is a diagonal matrix with all off diagonal elements are 0, and diagonal elements are sigma 1, sigma 2, and so on sigma n. These diagonal elements are called singular value of the Jacobian. Okay, and U is called left singular matrix. V is called right singular matrix. At nose point, Jacobian becomes singular. At nose point, Jacobian becomes singular. And what happens to singular value? One of the singular value becomes 0. One of the singular value becomes 0. So when one of the singular value becomes 0, we can tell that we have reached nose point. So accordingly, nose point can be estimated. Now, if you are at some current operating point, the distance of this current operating point from the nose point can be estimated. A voltage stability margin can be estimated based on magnitude of this minimum singular value. Out of all singular value, you see which one is the minimum and what is magnitude. Based on that, you can see how far we are away from the nose point. The eigenanalysis, I have already told. You can have the state matrix, you can formulate state matrix, and the certain node of application point, one eigenvalue becomes 0, reaches origin. At half application point, one pair of eigenvalue reaches imaginary axis. Now I discuss different preventive and corrective measures for maintenance of voltage stability and for enhancement of voltage stability and voltage security. One is placement of series and shunt capacitors. We discussed that the voltage instability may occur due to increase in both real power demand and reactive power demand. So it is wrong to tell that voltage instability is due to only increase in reactive power demand. It is due to increase in both real power demand and reactive power demand. But it is difficult to transmit reactive power IDOP, particularly under heavy loading conditions. So what can be done? Since transmission of reactive power is difficult, if you can locally feed reactive power at the critical buses, then you can maintain voltage stability. So that can be done by placement of series and shunt capacitors. Series and shunt capacitors you can locally put at the critical buses, shunt capacitor, critical lines, series capacitors, and by that ways you can control voltage stability margin and voltage stability and voltage security and enhance. Placement of synchronous condenser. You know what is synchronous condenser? Overexcited synchronous motor without any load, and this can be also used to enhance voltage stability margin. Placement of fast controllers. Fast controllers may play important role in enhancing voltage stability margin. So there are different types of fast controllers: series controllers, shunt controllers, and series controllers. So these controllers, fast controllers, may inject reactive power at the bus to the bus if it is shunt controller. Reactive power series with the line is series controller. And by this injection, we can enhance voltage stability margin. We can control. And these are very flexible. By small changing firing angle, AC transmission is made very flexible, and we can also control voltage stability margin by optimally placing the fast controller. Under voltage load shedding, whenever load voltage goes below a particular critical value, you do load shedding. Of course, it is irritating to consumers, but it can also be adopted in the worst cases. So whenever load voltage goes below certain value, you can do under voltage load shedding to maintain voltage stability of the system. Blocking of tap changes under reverse operation. Under reverse operation, you see the reverse operation OLTC is may cause voltage instability. So what you do, you permit only forward operation of tap changer. You block its reverse operation. Generation rescheduling. You can run the optimal reactive power dispatch where the voltage stability margin can be considered objective function, and this voltage stability margin can be expressed as a function of reactive power output of different generators. So you can reschedule reactive power output of different generators so that the voltage stability margin gets enhanced and gets some desirable value. Flexible AC transmission system may play important role in maintaining voltage stability margin in the system. There are different types of fast controllers. Shunt controllers, SVC, STATCOM, series controllers, TCSC, SSSC, TC-PAR, series shunt controllers, UPFC, series controllers, internal power flow controller, IPFC. All these controllers may be quite helpful in voltage stability, margin enhancement, but provided they are optimally placed in the system. So optimal location of these controllers are to be found, and accordingly these are to be placed in the system to control voltage stability margin. The fast controllers may play important role in voltage stability margin enhancement. They are quite effective in voltage stability margin enhancement, and they inject reactive power locally at critical buses or in critical line. However, due to high cost and for getting maximum benefit, these controllers are to be placed optimally in the system. So you have to find optimal location of these controllers. Now I'll talk about smart grid. What is smart grid? It is modernized grid that encourages bidirectional flow of electricity and information. The conventional grid has got only unidirectional flow of electricity, that is from utility to consumer. But in case of smart grid, there will be bidirectional flow of electricity from utility to consumer and from consumer to utility also. Say, for example, consumers may put the solar panels at their rooftops, and during off-peak hours, they can also inject electricity to the grid. So consumer also becomes producer. So new name of consumer is prosumer. Prosumer means producer plus consumer. It is prosumer. So electricity can flow in the bidirectional fashion from utility to consumer and back from consumer to utility. Informations, the data we are transmitted, from control center to the remote location to control where measurements are performed to control center control center, informations are processed and it can be transmitted back to the locations where the controls are to be adopted. So data can be transmitted in the bidirectional fashion. Also from the consumer premises through smart metering, data can be measured, can be transmitted to the utility and controlled back to the system. So it is a modernized grid that encourages bidirectional flow of electricity and information. So in control center decisions are taken and these are intimated to the accordingly intimated to operators accordingly to take appropriate measures to protect the system. Encourages use of renewable energy resources such as wind and solar generations. Smart grid architecture encourages use of renewable energy resources. This considers complete automation of generation, transmission, distribution system through SCADA, WAMS, and distribution management system. Customers play an important role in demand side management. Now, in order to maintain voltage stability in smart grid architecture, to see what are the issues to be addressed. The conventional methods of stability assessment may not be suitable for stability assessment of fast challenge real-time system. Whatever methods we have talked about, say continuation power flow method, multiple load flow, repeated load flow, all these methods are time consuming. So these methods are helpful for offline studies. These methods are helpful for offline studies, but these are not suitable for real-time assessment of the voltage stability, because in real-time assessment method, real-time assessment method must be fast. Must be fast. So some fast methodology is to be developed so that voltage stability of the real-time system is assessed. Restructuring a power system may create new problems, such as line congestions. As demand increases, the power flow through network may also increase in that way, because in the restructured environment, there are multiple generating companies, multiple distributing companies, but they may be using same transmission corridor. So there is a lot of competition among different companies, and due to this competition, since they are extracting from the same transmission corridor, some of the line may get congested. So that congestion, line congestion, may also affect the voltage stability of the system. Voltage stability of the system. So how to deal with such challenge is another challenge for maintaining voltage stability. So congestion is to manage in a real-time environment. Otherwise, it may lead to cascaded tripping of the line. We not managed, then some of the line may trip. If one line trips, still not managed, another line may trip. So it may lead to cascaded tripping, resulting in voltage instability. Sufficient ATC is to be maintained under different conditions. Sufficient available transfer capability is to maintain under different conditions to ensure security of the real-time system under this competitive market regime. If ATC is not sufficient, then under heavy loading condition, there will be problem of voltage instability. So that issue is to be addressed. Introduction of renewable energy resources may put new constraints in maintaining voltage stability in smart grid architecture, such as solar generation, wind generation system. For example, say wind generation, it has got fluctuating speed. Speed is not constant. So as wind speed fluctuates, it may also affect the bus voltages. So controlling voltages under installation of Sabine generator will be another challenge in the real-time system. Cyber security must be ensured for transmission of data. Now, in smart grid architecture, you see there is bidirectional flow of information. Since information are flowing in the bidirectional fashion through IoT, through different communication links, it is quite possible that the data transmitted are hacked by hackers. Hacked by hacker. So some mechanisms to develop so that the data is not prone to hackers. So maintenance of cyber security is another aspect which is to be considered while maintaining voltage stability in smart grid architecture. WAMS, wide area monitoring system, may play an important role in maintaining voltage stability in smart grid architecture. The WAMS, what is WAMS? Wide area monitoring system. The SCADA system was able to measure the magnitude of voltages, but there were difficulty in measuring angle. Whereas in case of wide area multi-system, with advent of phasor measurement units, that is PMUs, it is quite possible to monitor the health of the system through measurement of time-stamped voltage and current phases and frequency in microseconds. What is time-stamped measurement? Time-stamped measurement means measurements are performed at the same time. So all voltage phasors and current phasors, unless they are measured at the same time, say one PMU measuring at some instant, other PMU measuring at other instant, then you cannot use that data for analysis. So all PMUs must make measurement at the same time. So there must be time-stamped measurement of phasors. So PMU are measuring the phasors, voltage current phasors in time frame, same time-stamp measurements within accuracy of microseconds. This is possible with GPS clock. So all PMUs are linked with GPS clocks. GPS clocks. So through GPS clocks, the PMUs are linked to each other and they are providing time-stamp measures of complete phasor, not only magnitude, but both magnitude and angle. So all complex voltage and currents are measured. So complete phasor is estimated by PMUs, and that is done by discrete Fourier transform or fast Fourier transform. The voltage and current measures are measured. So once voltage and current measures are measured, using that in real time, voltage stability margin can be monitored. So PMUs play an important role in stability monitoring in smart grid because real-time measurement of phasors can be obtained with optimally placed PMUs, and with that you can calculate voltage, assess voltage stability in the real time, and accordingly you can control the voltage of the margin of the system. So PMUs placed at certain optimally selected locations should be completed. It is not necessary to put PMU at all the local buses, but you have different laws of electrical engineering, Ohm's law, Kirchhoff's laws, all these laws. So you can put PMUs at certain minimum locations, certain optimal locations, and utilizing these laws of electrical engineering, you can calculate phasors of all other buses in real time. So once you calculate all voltage and currents, you can completely analyze the power system in real time, and you can monitor the complete health of the system. So with optimal placement of PMUs at certain locations, if you are able to observe the whole network, that is, you are able to find voltage currents all other buses in lines and in lines, it is settled that the power system is completely or fully observable. So the optimal locations of the PMUs should be obtained to make the power system completely observable. Okay. And this should be observable not only for in that case, but also even under some, say some PMU data is lost. Some PMUs, 1 or 2 PMU data are lost. Still, the network should be observable. So one important aspect is the you have to obtain the observability of the power system with optimal placement of PMUs. And once power system observable, then with this PMU data, we can assess voltage stability or you can monitor voltage stability of the power system in the real time. So, and then PMU data can be linked to the fast controllers, parameters of fast controllers. So, if you put link this to the parameters of the fast controller, optimally placed fast controllers, then these parameters can be controlled in real time. Or reactive power injection by fast controllers can be controlled in real time based on PMU measurements, and accordingly voltage stability can be monitored and controlled. So flash parameters are automatically tuned to the PMU measurements. Line condition ITC of real-time system are to be fast monitored through PMU measurements and be controlled through facts and other controllers without much time delay. Measurement transmitted must be transmitted to control centers should be free from cyber attack. So here we have discussed that through PMUs how you can maintain how you can observe the system and how the voltage stability with optimally placed PMUs, how voltage stability can be monitored in the real-time system, and different controllers can be tuned to PMU measurements to enhance voltage stability of the system in the real time. Now we'll see different case studies. One is the optimal placement of PMU's power system network for voltage stability estimation under contingency. This is the work by my research scholar Pankaj Sahu, appeared in the SERA 2017. So what was the objective of the work? To find the optimal location of PMUs to consider impact of voltage stability based critical contingency and to make network completely observable with optimally placed PMU even under critical contingency and to monitor voltage stability of the real-time system with optimally placed PMUs. So contingencies has been ranked based on the voltage stability margin. So you have two contingencies, contingency I and contingency J. Contingency J has got lower voltage stability margin. So contingency J has been considered more critical. So based on that, the critical contingency has been selected. And loading has been changed using this. For all buses, the uniform increase in load has been considered. But in order to have different patterns of load increase, the reactive power demand has been considered as K to the IB 1 plus lambda. By changing value of K, the power factor of increased demand has been changed. So load variation have been considered under different power factors, and he has taken the four values of K, that is 0.2, 0.5, 1, and 1.2. The optimal placement of PMUs has been done based on results of binary integer nonlinear programming. This has been run binary integer nonlinear programming has been run for the system in that case and voltage stability based critical contingency cases. And what is that? this is the problem is defined as let x be a vector consisting of binary decision variables and xi is equal to 1 if PMU is placed at bus I and 0 otherwise. And then he has minimized the sum sigma Ci xi. Ci represents cost function for PMU, which he has considered 1 in his work. And the constant is Fjx is greater than or equal to 1 for all buses varying from 1 to n is the number of buses. And these are the network observability rule by which the voltages of other buses are calculated. For the system using PMUs, these are the rules. If voltage and current phasor at one end of a branch are known, then voltage phasor at other branch can be calculated by Ohm's law. If voltage phasors at both ends of a branch are known, then branch current can be calculated. And if there exists a zero injection bus with all branch currents known except one, the unknown branch current can be calculated using Kirchhoff's current law. So, network observability may be measured in terms of bus observability index and the total observability index. The bus observability index is the indication of that if you put PMU at a particular bus, then how many buses can be observed. So it is defined number of buses connected to a particular bus. It means if you put PMU at all these buses, then corresponding bus can be observed. Or if you put PMU at any of these buses, then no need of putting PMU other buses, these are observed. So bus observability index is defined as this, and total observability index is defined as sum of bus observability index. So obviously, the total observability index must be greater than the number of buses in the system, even in case of loss of 1 or 2 PMUs. Then network will be fully observable even for contingency cases. So the effectiveness of this approach of PMU placement based on binary digital linear programming has been considered by Mr. Sahu, and the buses which are most susceptible to voltage stability has been considered as critical buses, and these buses he has obtained voltage stability margin of these buses in real time with PMU data using PSI software. Okay, how much time is left, Sanjay? How much time is left?
6 minutes, sir. You may proceed. 10 more minutes.
Okay. Okay. So the critical buses, since this is real-time system, in real-time system, critical buses are not constant. They change with system operating condition. So under multiple operating condition, he has calculated critical buses. So for that, the critical buses have been calculated, obtained for in that case, critical contingency cases for different patterns of load increase. That is for case called 0.2, 0.5, 1 and 1.2. And the set of buses has maximum negative dBi by d lambda has been considered most critical buses and obtained in that case and voltage stability based critical contingency cases for different patterns of no load increase. And noise curves were obtained for all critical buses under system of under different operating conditions based on results of PMU measurements and pseudo measurements. What are pseudo measurements? Pseudo measurements are PMU measurements are the measurements we obtained by PMUs, and based on PMU measurements using different network observability rules, that is laws of electrical engineering, we are able to calculate the voltages and other buses. So those measurements are called, which are calculated measurements, calculated values are called pseudo measurement. So these are results. The critical contingencies for 14 bus system. We got the outage of line 1, 2, 2, 3, 5, 6. For k is equal to 0.2, 0.5, 1, 1.2. He has done case studies for 14 bus system, New England 39 bus system, and a practical Indian system 246 bus system, which is the northern region power grid system, consists of 9 states and union territory of northern part of our country, that is the Jammu Kashmir, Ladakh, Punjab, Haryana, Rajasthan, Uttarakhand, Uttar Pradesh, and New Delhi and Chandigarh. So here result is presented for 14 bus system. Critical contingencies, these are PMU location. In that case, he got 3 PMU locations. For line outage 1, 2, he got 4 PMU locations based on binary integer linear programming. And then what he did, he combined PMU location for all the cases. So he got 5 PMU location, bus number 2, 4, 5, 6, 9. And using this 5 PMU location, total observability index was obtained as 24, which is much above 14. So even if few PMUs are lost, still the network can be observed. These are most critical buses obtained for different patterns of load increase under internet case and critical contingency cases. So all these buses which are obtained for different cases were considered critical cases, and for these buses, voltage stability margin was obtained based on PMU measurements. So this is one nose curve plot. The for bus 4 with the blue one is with PMU, red one is without PMU based on continuation power flow, and two curves are overlapping. Of course, for 246 bus system there is slight difference, and 14 bus is ideal system almost. So here you see almost same nose curve is coming with PMU measurements and without PMU measurements based on continuation power flow. This is for case equal to 1. Other work is the monitoring of. Once you place PMUs, next task is you have to monitor with PMU measurements. Once you optimally, the first work was optimal placement of PMU. Once the PMUs are optimally placed, then you have to have the real-time monitoring of voltage stability margin based on PMU measurements. So this work is done by based on that. And here, the real-time monitoring is done by PMU. And in this work, the nose curve has been approximated by the quadratic curve, the polynomial, the loading versus voltage has been approximated by quadratic polynomial. So PDI is equal to some constant VI square plus another constant VI plus another constant. So it is approximated by quadratic polynomial. And if you differentiate PDI with respect to VI, then you get this nose point dP by dV is 0. So that gives the voltage at the nose point as minus A2I by A1I. And the corresponding maximum loadability is coming minus A2I square by 4 A1I plus A3I. It means if you can evaluate these constants A1, A2, A3 in real time for all buses, then voltage stability can be monitored. So what is done for that? He obtained PMU measurements at 3 operating points. So at loading 1, that is power is PD1 and voltage measured by PMU is V1. A second point for power is PD2, voltage measured is V2. And third point power is PD and voltage measured is P3. And then with 3 equations, these are 3 equations, PD1 in terms of first voltage, PD2 in terms of second voltage, PD3 in terms of third voltage. With 3 equations, 3 unknowns A1, A2, A3 are calculated in the real time. But since operating points keep on changing in real-time system, So what is done? These PMU measurements also are obtained at regular intervals. And with new voltages and with new loading, again these constants are evaluated. So constant value are updated, and accordingly the noise point voltage information are updated, and the real power maximum load rate information updated. Same is done for reactive power also. The Q versus voltage curve, QV curve is also approximated quadratic curve. And again, you differentiate this. These are constant V1, V2, V3, which are evaluated by three PMU measurements. And PMU measurements are updated at regular interval. So accordingly, constant V1, V2, V3 are updated at regular interval. So Vi and Q, that is noise point voltage, QDIN also updated at regular intervals. So this is the flow chart for voltage stability monitoring. Here it starts with the you consider maximum reliability as it takes a very large value, assuming that the maximum reliability of system will be less than this value. So it initiates PD max and QD max of the system, that is maximum reliability as 10,000 megawatt and 10,000 megawatt, considering it to be too large value. And then PMU measurements are obtained at three operating points. And then it starts with bus number 1. I is the bus number. Then it asks whether bus I is a load bus or generator bus. If generator bus, then no calculation is to be done, because voltage instability will occur at the load buses. If it is a load bus, yes, then it obtains the voltage and power measurements at three operating points. So obtain voltage magnitude, real power demand, and reactive power demand at bus I at operating point 1 using PM measurements and CUD measurements. Obtain measurements at operating point 2, obtain measurements at operating point 3, and then evaluate constants A1, A2, A3, V1, V2, V3 using what equations we have discussed. Find maximum loadability of real power, maximum loadability of reactive power for that bus. Then it asks whether the maximum loadability noise point value of PDI is less than PDmax. If yes, then PDmax is replaced by maximum loadability of that bus. If no, then it takes for reactive power. So next, earlier, since we have assumed very large value of PDmax, so PDIN will be less than PDmax. So maximum loadability, consider this. So PDmax is replaced by PDIN, and bus I is considered most critical bus. So first bus initially is considered most critical bus based on real power loadability. The same thing is done for reactive power loadability. Then it asks bus I is the most critical bus, and corresponding value of loadability is the maximum loadability. Then asked, is bus I final bus? N, no, in increment I for I plus 1. Then for second bus, same calculation as obtained. Now for second bus, if maximum loadability becomes less than the maximum loadability of first bus, then PD max will be PD max of second bus. PD noise point loadability of second bus will be now maximum loadability, and bus 2 will become most critical bus. However, if bus 2 loadability is more than bus 1 loadability, in that case, bus 1 still remains the most critical bus. So in that case, way, the maximum loadability of each bus is obtained, and the bus is having lowest maximum loadability, that bus is considered most critical bus. Corresponding maximum loadability is considered maximum loadability of the system, real power, reactive power, and corresponding bus voltage is called the most critical bus voltage. And then it has display PD max, QD max, and most critical bus information. Which bus is the most critical bus? And then there is no stop in this flow chart. There is no stop because it is a real time monitoring. So in real time monitoring, there is no stop, but what is done, it goes to 1. 1 means again new PMU measurements. Again, PMU measurements have 3 new operating points, and again repeat all these calculations, update your maximum loadability information and keep on doing again and again. So fresh PMU measurements update PD max, QD max information and most critical bus information again. So there's no stop. So case studies were done for 14 bus, 39 bus, and 240 bus system. This is the PV curve. This is the QV curve of 10 or 14 bus system for line outage 24 for bus 5. And red one is by proposed approach, and blue one is by continuation Pablo method. You see that maximum loadability is almost same. So this is based on PMU measurement, and this is blue one is CPM. Similarly, other plots are there. Then once monitoring is done, then is next task is enhancement or control of voltage stability. For that, he has considered placement of static compensator, StatCom. So StatCom, he has considered voltage regulator model of StatCom, where the reactive are injected by the StatCom. The current injected by StatCom is I and StatCom is represented by a current source is connected bus K, and bus K voltage is compared to the desired reference voltage. Whenever there is error, then StatCom injects the current accordingly. It is modeled as a gain time constant form KR by TR S plus 1 subject to maximum and minimum current limit. So in this model, state equation of StatCom can be obtained. I and dot is equal to this, and the reactive injected by StatCom is product of current and voltage. Both are in phase quadrature. So in this, the reactive injection of StatCom is done, obtained. Now this is the flow chart for voltage stability control. Other things are same as in previous flow chart. Only thing is here injection is done by StatCom. So obtain bus I is a load bus, yes or no. Then is also I is equal to K. K is the bus where StatCom is placed. StatCom is placed. Yes, then StatCom injects reactive power as per equation 3 and 4. These are as per these equations, StatCom injects reactive power. If no injection, continue. Again, second operating point, PMU measurements are obtained. Then ask, is it the StatCom bus? Yes. Inject reactive power? No. Nothing to be done. And bus point also, if it injects reactive power? No. Then continue. So injection of reactive power is also based on PMU measurements by StatCom. Okay, these are case studies. This is for NRPG 246 bus system. The red one is without StatCom, green one is with StatCom. With StatCom, the voltage stability margin gets enhanced from 473 megawatt to 489 megawatt. Okay, similarly, there are other case studies. New England 39 bus system, QV curve for outage of line 3938 without StatCom, 73 megawatt, with StatCom, 193 megawatt. So reactive power reliability gets enhanced. So I conclude from this, the maintaining voltage stability has been considered an important challenge for research and utilities. Since last few decades, control measures against voltage stability include reactive power injection and control through FACS controllers. Research has mainly concentrated on offline study of voltage stability. Online study of the real voltage stability study of real-time system is still a challenge. Smart grid architecture should be capable in monitoring and control of voltage stability margin, and this is quite possible with synchro phase measurements through PMUs. PMUs are to be optimally placed to make the system fully observable, even in case of loss of few PMUs. And PMU parameters should be tuned to controller parameters so that the voltage stability is controlled in real time, monitored and controlled in real time under different operating conditions. The data transmitted in smart grid architecture must be free from cyber attack So cyber security, maintenance of cyber security, another aspect which is to be considered while maintaining formal voltage stability, monitoring and controlling smart grid architecture. Okay, now you can ask if you have any queries, you can ask.
Dear participant, if you have any query, you can ask to sir, or you can post in chat box. Participant, you can directly ask to sir if you want. Otherwise, you can post in chat. I will dictate to sir. From the participant, sir. Thank you very much, sir, for delivering such a knowledgeful lecture for our participant. Definitely, they will get benefited then research and other problem solving in teaching and day life. Thank you very much, sir, for accepting our proposal in such a short notice. Thank you.
Okay, but I am surprised to say no, there is no query.
I will share them to email ID. Maybe they will send after
Okay.
your mail ID.
Okay.
They will.
Okay. So now I may quit now. I may quit now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay.